Hi friends, it me. Well, since the first story I told was so well received, I suppose I will tell another. And this one actually happened yesterday, so it's still fresh in my mind. It's pretty long, so grab a drink and some popcorn and get comfortable. A little backstory first. Now, if some of you didn't already know, I am my mother's caretaker. I won't go into detail on all her medical problems in this video, but I will let you know that she is basically bedridden and needs 24-hour care. Also, she is on, or rather was on, prescription pain medicine that her primary care physician prescribed her. He would prescribe her a 3-month supply, and she, or rather I, would mail it and sign for it a few weeks later when it would arrive. Now, however, in the recent months, a bill was passed on July 1st. It went active by the governor, Rick Scott, that would only allow pain medicine to be prescribed in 3-day increments, no exceptions. So naturally, her doctor and many others are getting out of the pain medicine business, and that has left my mother without her pain medicine for the last 2 weeks. Now, these last 2 weeks have been hell on me and her. I've been there for her every step of the way, doing my best to feel comfortable. And if you've ever known someone who's gone through opiate withdrawal, you know how bad it can be for them. And what I was doing wasn't enough for her, so she requested I take her to the hospital, which I gladly did. The hospital wouldn't do anything other than prescribe medicine that was supposed to counteract a couple of the withdrawal effects. It did nothing for her, as she still had all of the symptoms. And she was getting really emotional about not being admitted for detox, so we make an appointment to see her primary care physician to get some advice on what she can do. Now, he informed her that the hospital about 20 miles north of where her doctor is has a detox clinic for people like her. It's under hospital supervision, so they would do their absolute best to help her, you know? And she couldn't check into a regular detox clinic because she is not self-sufficient. So I drive her to this hospital and we go to the ER. I let them know she would like to check in for detox, and they inform me that they haven't had a detox clinic in 10 years and would see her but couldn't do much in terms of helping her with the withdrawals. It was another 6 hours wasted, and on the way home it starts raining. I get to a stoplight and notice a lot of smoke coming from the right side of the van. And I pull into a shopping center and I take a look. It's the brakes. The caliper is stuck and is constantly grinding the brakes on the rotor. I have to get my mom home, so I drive it the rest of the way home. You know, it wasn't locked up so bad that it couldn't move, so, I took advantage of that. And I get her home and get her to bed, and I get some rest. And I call around to a couple local hospitals the next day, trying to get as much information as I can in locating a detox clinic that can help someone like my mom. And the lady I spoke with told me that the only hospital with a detox clinic is in DeLand, Florida, an hour and a half away. And I give them a call and let them know what's going on with my mother and ask them if they would be able to accommodate someone in her condition. They inform me that they could, and I should bring her down to get an evaluation. I let my mother know this and she seems relieved. But my van is out of commission, so how would she get there? Cue my sister-in-law. She said she could do it and took the next night off of work so she could be able to. And the next day, I am working on the brakes while my sister-in-law drives my mother to DeLand. They are there all day and all night practically. And I wished really hard that they would admit her because I need a couple days break. I've been busting my ass to help her and I'm getting pretty exhausted. However, this would not be the case, as I get a call from my nephew later that night informing me that they are coming home with my mother. The hospital wouldn't admit her because she requires more help than the nurses could give her, or they refused. And another day wasted and no help for my mom. After she gets home, I help her to bed and I go to sleep myself. I sleep really good. Now, a few days pass And she tells me she hasn't been urinating well for a couple of days. And just a few months ago, she had the same problem. So I took her to the hospital and they found her kidneys were failing. They were able to fix her though. Without dialysis, she doesn't need dialysis, so her kidneys regenerated. Anyways, this news she told me scared me again, so instead of me driving her to the hospital, I called 911 and let them know about the situation. They come and take her to the hospital, and this gives me some time to recuperate from my exhaustion. And I find out they are admitting her for severely low potassium. The normal potassium is about 3.5, and hers was 1 point something. Now, this is a relief, but I still need to go down to the hospital and take her CPAP machine and other things that she needs. So, now that that is out of the way, I can get on with this story. Are you still there? Now, it's 3 days later, and they've had her on a liquid diet to help combat the withdrawal effects. I'll spare you the other details. They get her potassium back to normal, and they say she can go home. I've had 3 days rest, so I'm feeling rejuvenated a little bit. Now, the night before, the Publix story has happened, so I'm arriving at the hospital, and I park. I go into the main entrance and grab a wheelchair. I stop at the cafeteria to get an empanada. They are the best. I asked the guy where they come from because I've never had an empanada that was this good before. He tells me Miami, so you know these are legit AF. And I thank the cashier for the information, and I mosey to the register to pay for my goods. The cashier tells me $2.12, and I slide my card. She says slide it again, and I do. She says again, and I do. Again she says, and I do. She takes my card and slides it. Slides it again. Slides it again. She hands the card back to me and asks me to tell her the numbers so she can punch them in. I'm announcing my card, number, expiration date, and even the CVC number, while there are people standing right behind me waiting to pay for their food. It's cool. They're probably doctors and have no interest in skimming my card, so I have no fear in announcing those numbers. She puts them in and the transaction is complete. A little embarrassed, I apologize to the people behind me. They tell me that it happens more times than they can count and not to worry. Good stuff. So I grab my food and the wheelchair and start heading for the elevators. I get to them and I press the up button. A couple of young doctors walk into the elevator room and chit-chatting. One was a pretty young female wearing a burqa, and the other was a thin young man. Both in their lab coats, right? The elevator comes and we all go in. I press number 5 and the lady presses number 3. They stop chit-chatting and I get the idea of striking up a conversation while we ride the elevator up. I says to them, "So you guys are saving lives today?" The female is the only one that talks and she says, "We're still learning to save lives," as she laughs. And I say, "Cool, you guys are truly making a difference." And the elevator doors open up and someone gets on. I see the lady doctor get off the elevator and then gets back on. It was the second floor. She says, "You see, I'm still learning." And we all get a good laugh from her honest mistake. I take the blame since I had distracted her. Anyways, I get to the 5th floor and I go see my mom. And the nurses that were taking care of her were informing me of all the necessary things they did for her and the stuff that I need to do for her after her discharge. One thing they told me that kind of upset me was that they were giving her an opiate because she complained about the pain and they wanted her to feel comfortable. And I kind of got upset and I told them, hey, she was going through detox for opiate withdrawal, and that was pretty much over. So is the stuff you give her going to reset that? She's going to have to go through that all over again? And they looked at me like, probably. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. You guys want her to be comfortable while she's here, but once she's gone, it's not your problem, right? So anyways, I get that off my chest, right? I gather up all of my mother's stuff and get her in the chair, and we head for the elevators. It was a quick ride down with no delays. And I get her to the side exit where the patient loading and unloading was, and I leave her inside while I bring around the van. I get the van there and I go back inside, and my mother asks, "Did you grab my slippers?" Shit, no. I didn't even see them anywhere. So I say, stay there, I'll be right back. I head back to the elevators and press the up button. And a more mature lady, probably about maybe 47, comes by. I have to admit, she was sexy as hell. She was wearing a push-up bra and her boobs were really prominent. I can tell she's an employee, perhaps a nurse, because she's wearing a name tag and white clothes. So I said, say to her, save any lives today? The same shit I said to the fresh out of med school newbies, because it worked, right? And she says with a laugh, no, I haven't. I say to her with a smile on my face, are you sure? You have that pretty smile on your face. Sometimes that's all it takes. And after I say this, I look straight ahead to see where the elevators are, and I see, out of my peripheral vision, her looking at me with a tilted head. So our elevator arrives, and I motion for her to go in first, since I'm such a gentleman. And the elevators on this hospital have doors on both sides, so both sides open up, and a couple of other people get in from the other side. Now, the lady I was flirting with happened to know one of the ladies that got on, and she started talking to her. It's like they hadn't seen each other in a while, so they were doing a quick chat to catch up. And while she was doing this, her head was turned, so I got a good look up and down at her goods without her noticing. I think. But then, I remember my mission, and I decide I should focus on the task at hand. So I look down and to the left, where the doors are, and I wait until I get to my floor. While I'm waiting, I see, again, out of my peripheral vision, her looking at me, and it looks like she is looking at me up and down. Anyways, the door's open, and it's my floor. I take 2 steps off, and the lady decides to sincerely say to me, you have a good day, sir. And I didn't expect such a sincere statement from her, as I figured she wasn't really interested since she started talking to her friend and stopped talking to me. So anyways, I turn around and I say, thank you, you too. Oh, fucking hell, guys, why wasn't I thinking of something witty to say? Nope. I was on a mission to get a pair of slippers and nothing was going to distract me. WTF. And I find the slippers and rush back to the elevators, feeling totally defeated. I get down to my mother and say, mission accomplished, and I push her out to the van, never to see the beautiful woman again, because she probably fucking killed herself. The end.